I started working in a basement lab with a master dental technician. I called him a master dental technician. I don't know if he was on paper, but yeah, I was curious what to do one day, and my mother was actually a dental hygienist, and she said, you know, you're really good with small, detailed things like models and everything. She said, why don't you get a hold of Charlie and see if you can, you know, apprentice under him for a while. You might really enjoy the art of, you know, dental technician work. And so I said, yeah, okay. So I met up with him and kind of fell in love with it at first. He taught me the basics, model work, waxing, casting, you know, all of that stuff. And I worked there for 7 years before I decided to move on to try my hand at being a full-time musician in Los Angeles, which worked, but it didn't work. I'm not doing it anymore, obviously. I still play music. So yeah, I got back into the industry at a certain point in my mid-20s and been doing it ever since. It's become my passion again. I love what I do. I've got teeth on the brain all the time. So when I first started at 17, it was, you know, it was before the age of digital technology is sort of starting to take over the industry, or it's trying to take over the industry. And so everything was still handmade from the beginning to the very end. And so that's always been in my mind that handmade is the way to go, and I still believe that to this day. But with that progression of digital technology, you know, you can either avoid it completely, or you can start to get into it and work with both, or work with one only. But you know, it has been a challenge to try to maintain that high-end handmade craftsmanship with the digital dentistry, which has a lot of advantages. But that's one aspect of things that's taken some getting used to. I like to incorporate digital technology as a tool. It does not run my workflow. It is not, you know, I don't rely on that whatsoever, because at the end of the day, if you want to wax a coping, you could either mill it, or you can, you know, if the power goes out, you can still wax it by hand with a Bunsen burner and a pot of wax. So I still prefer to do the handmade. It takes a little longer, but I find that's where the true craftsmanship lies, is in the understanding of the craft, is knowing how to do these things by hand and perfecting those, always striving for perfection. The first thing I realized when I first started using GC was you know, the predictability of it. I mean, a lot of people say that about a lot of different products, but it was really cool when I first started using it. The stability that it had, the vitality. I mean, what I want to see in a porcelain is something that obviously mimics natural dentition. And I've used a lot of different porcelains in the past, tried a lot of different techniques, and GC's spot on. When I look inside a patient's mouth for custom shade, since I've been using GC, I see the powders in the mouth, and I see what I'm supposed to build. It jumps out at me like, okay, you know, I need to put A2 here, I need to, you know, use this opal here, I need to use this incisal here, and what I put down is what I get. I mean, when it comes out of the oven, you know, if I've looked at the little shade tabs and I've tried to figure out, you know, okay, I need to put this here. When I put it there and it comes out of the oven, it's what I get. And I've never had that with another porcelain. It's always been, well, if you know, it's always inconsistent is what I'm trying to say. And so that's what I love about GC. It makes anterior restoration so much easier, because I can look at the shade and write down what I'm going to do, and that's what I get all the time. And it's great because it can withstand multiple firings. if I need to make some changes, and it doesn't slump and slouch and melt all over the place. I don't have to relayer things as much. It's really, it's high-end stuff. It's great. It's great for basic restoration, A2 posterior or whatever. But it's really great for those complex anterior cases where some real thought and craftsmanship needs to go into it. GC gives me what I need to do that. It's spot on all the time. I primarily am using the GC initial ZRFS. I do a lot of zirconia layering, and it's definitely the best product I've ever used for zirconia substructures. It's just really good stuff, and I've always thought that we're craftsmen, we're artists, whatever you want to call us, but everybody's got their own style. Like your porcelain brush represents your style a little bit. Obviously the music that you listen to while you're building a crown is part of your style and your flow, and that's what I like about GC, is that it kind of fits my style. It's heavy metal, it's jazz, it's fusion, it fits my repertoire of tools that I use.